Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things, in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Our guest this week is someone that we connected with via Instagram. I love Instagram. We find so many of our guests on Instagram. We connected with Isabella after we had the absolute honor and privilege of speaking at a Hobie conference. We have a whole episode on our experience there. It was amazing. Isabella is a Hobie alum and volunteer, and we just originally connected about Hobie, and she sent us a message and said, hey, I saw you guys and I work with Hobie and love what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. And we have been mutuals on Instagram ever since. But we finally got to collaborate on an episode together, and honestly, it was one of the most relaxed I've ever been in an interview. I think Isabella is, for one thing, like, we're really similar in age, and we're really similar in the sort of things we do on social media and online and stuff. So it was really, really just cool to get to chat with her so candidly and get to connect on a deeper level through this podcast. So Isabella is a social media manager and coach. She teaches people how to build online platforms, which is so, I think, valuable in this society, in this day and age, right? Our social media platforms can really be like a resume, and they can help us get jobs and that sort of thing. So really, really cool stuff that she does. But she also coaches people and teaches them sort of the tricks of the trade, so to speak. They're not tricks, but we talked a lot about just her passion for making this sort of information accessible to people, and how there can be a lot of gatekeeping and that sort of thing in the social media industry.
We had a really thoughtful conversation about body positivity and body acceptance, and also confidence, and how to feel confident maybe when we feel like we don't have confidence. So a lot of great stuff in this conversation, and we can't wait for you guys to hear it.
We connected through Hobie.
Yeah.
So what was your Hobie experience like, and what sort of things did you learn at Hobie that, like, you feel like has helped you get to where you are today? Like, what was Hobie like for you? Because we never attended, but we got to speak as, like, speakers, and it was really cool, and everyone has said that it is such a cool and life-changing experience. So what was that like for you?
That's a great question. And I think Hobie is a really big part of my origin story. So I went as a sophomore, and I thought it was going to be like, one of those boring leadership conferences where you just kind of sit on the bleachers and, like, you get talked at and you take notes, fall asleep, you wake up, narcolepsy. But I think the biggest thing that I got out of Hobie was that it really changed my bandwidth of thought. And by that, I mean, I went from this idea of, okay, I have to have like a traditional 9 to 5 to I can really start and do anything that I want. And to say that in that moment, I was like, I'm going to be an influencer and an entrepreneur. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
But I did start a community service organization that I was running at the time. And I think even just learning the steps to put that together and realizing, like, oh, I wanted to do this thing that didn't exist and I can do it, really changed the way I started to look at life. Like, it's not just about the options that are in front of you. It's about the things you can create in your mind and the team and supportive people you have around you to put that together.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I feel like we feel the same. Like, both of us didn't really know, like, exactly what we wanted to do, like, after high school or after college, and just, like, having people around you to say, like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You can do you can kind of create your own path. It's really empowering, I feel like.
Yeah. And it's like the synergy between like what you're passionate about and what you're good at, right? And so it's not just like, oh, you're a great writer, like you need to write for a traditional newspaper. You could start a blog, you could start a community service organization that teaches people to write better. And I just think the creative freedom that comes when you unlock like what it is that you can do on your own and not just like I said, what exists in society is huge.
Did you feel like any sort of like reservation of, picking a non-traditional path? Was there any worries of, oh, maybe it's not stable or maybe it's not what everybody else is doing? And how did you like move out of that mindset?
Oh, totally. I'd be lying right if I said that wasn't the case. And I'd be lying if I said that it doesn't still impact me now. Right. So I started freelancing. I was doing social media work for different companies, decided, oh, I want this to be a business. Okay. Starting your own business is kind of a glitzy, glammy thing to say, and people are a little more accepting of it. Now, when you start telling people, oh, I'm an influencer, I'm working on brand deals, I get paid to take photos with, a coffee mug, whatever,
Yeah.
That was harder. Okay. That's harder to explain. It's harder to grasp. I think I worried a lot more about the judgment with that. So I actually started doing my like social media growth on a separate account. And I sat down with a friend of mine who is like, I mean, eons past what I'm doing when it comes to influencing. And she was like, Izzy, make it your personal page, stop hiding and just do it. And I just started doing it. And I have to say that it's really cool. The people that come out of the woodworks that I went to high school, middle school, college with that I don't even really talk to, that will message me and be like, hey, like, how do you do this? Or that's so cool. Or like supporting you from a distance, love your content. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
it's so cool because it's people I don't even really talk to.
Yeah.
So I think one thing I'd say is you'd be amazed at the supportive team you have that you don't even know exists because they're not maybe in your everyday life.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
The second thing is like, if you're happy, you're making money, you're sustaining yourself, that's what matters. And you're going to get hate, whether you're in a 9-to-5, whether you're in politics, whether you're starting a business. So you might as well do something you love because life is always going to throw you curveballs and hate. So if you hate what you're doing and you're getting hate, that sounds a lot more terrible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think. So
Yeah, no, totally.
I love that logic.
Yeah. I love what you said too about like people that you don't even realize like supporting you are out there and supporting you. Like, I think we noticed that too. Like people, like you said, from high school, from middle school, from, people that my mom's friends that come up to us and are like, we love your podcast. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Yeah. And like, you never would have maybe connected with some of these people if you hadn't like put yourself out there. So
agreed. And
really
I
awesome.
don't know if you guys like experience this too, but like I thought everyone was going to unfollow me. Like I was prepared for the max exodus of people, and it has not been the case. And I'm like, maybe I'm muted, it's very possible I'm muted by like 50% of the people from high school, but so be it. Like, I love what I'm doing. And I also think maybe the support comes with a transparency that you guys offer and I try to offer as well, where it's like, hey, this is what I'm doing and here's how I do it. And people know they can message you or me and I'll talk to you about it. Like, I think red tape is bullshit. Like, I like to have,
yes.
Yeah. Like, it's transparency, it's access. Like, when I thrive, you thrive, and vice versa. Like, me trying to keep another woman or person or influencer from accessing the space is silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good.
I love that social media feels like a place where, like, obviously there's still a lot of gatekeeping that goes on, but like, it's starting to feel like media is accessible. You know what I mean? Like, anybody can do this. Anybody can create this. And I think it's really awesome that, we're hopefully getting rid of gatekeeping. Yeah.
Eventually, with time.
Yeah. We'll get there, right? You talked about when I thrive, you thrive, and that sort of connection. Absolutely love that. You have posted on your Instagram like networking events. I would love to hear more about that. And Liz and I were talking the other day. This is a separate question, kind of related to networking, but how sometimes when it feels like you're making connections with like mentors or people that are successful that you want to learn from, how can we sort of do that in a way that does like support and benefit us both? How do we make those connections without it feeling like I want something from you and I'm going to take it? You know what I mean? How can we make those genuine networking connections?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll talk a little bit about the events and then I'll talk about that piece because I think a lot of that comes after you start meeting people.
Yeah.
Not all networking events are great. Okay. Like you're gonna go to some and they're not gonna be as great as others. But my philosophy in life and yeah, really just in life is no bad dates, no bad networking events, no bad opportunities. Like you have to make the best out of everything you're in. So sometimes you're going to be in a space and I'm talking like mainstream examples. Of course there are outliers. Like if you're super uncomfortable, get out.
Yeah.
You know, respect how you feel and what's going on. But
Absolutely.
generally speaking, like, you know, I've been in spaces where I'm like, wow, I am younger than everyone. I am like, you know, mainstream speaking, less successful than everyone at this point. And so I think it's also okay to kind of assess where you're at and like know when you're the listener or when you're the speaker in the event. Like sometimes I'm around people where I'm like, you know what? Like this is my time to just listen more. And they do say like, you know, listen more than you talk. I'm not always the best at that.
Me either.
But like I think one, like be realistic with the situation you're in. Two, don't be scared. Like I used to work in politics. Then I worked at Sirius XM for a while. So I've met a bunch of famous, like, you know, high accolade people, and I don't treat them any differently. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do, but I just act with confidence. Like,
yeah,
I don't walk in a room and think, oh, I'm not famous. Oh, I'm not making $1 million yet. Oh, I'm not XYZ. Like, I just walk in with confidence. Like you're in that space for a reason. You know, before COVID, I would have said like, shake the person's hand, look them in the eyes, introduce yourself and be confident.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest parts of it is if you walk in there like you're meant to be there, other people are going to treat you like you're meant to be there. And then like we're doing now, have a genuine conversation. Like there are going to be situations where you need an elevator pitch and you kind of need to just hit somebody with the one-liner, and that's cool. Have it ready. But otherwise just like get to know people. And I learned this in college from one of my mentors, and I think it's huge. Don't be afraid to ask for what you're looking for. You talked about mentoring, right? So it's like, if I start to reach out to these busy people who don't have a lot of time, like I'm still going to say, like, if I reach out to somebody, let's say today, you know, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, or how were your holidays? Are you looking forward to the new year? Like I'm going to have a nicety. Particularly the best thing to do is if you know something specific, get more specific. Like, you know, I know your son wasn't feeling well. How are things going? Like include something for the conversation, but also let them know what you want, right? Because when somebody reaches out to me, I know they have a question. I know they want to get coffee. I know they want to learn, and that's cool. I'm all about it. So just ask, like,
yeah,
you know, how's your son feeling? I know it's a busy time of year, but I'd love to grab coffee and learn more about XYZ if you have time.
Love it. I love that balance of like personalizing it and like acknowledging that we're both just people, right? But also being upfront and genuine and saying like, this is what I would like from you. Is this possible? I love that.
Thanks. I really like, I have to say I've had some really high success with it. And then I think, you know, you said making sure both people feel like they're getting something out of it. I sometimes just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Like if I'm sitting with somebody who's super busy, I'm like, I just need you to know how much I appreciate your time and attention. Like it means the world to me that you're taking the time. And while I know I'm not as experienced as you, I would love to be able to support you in any way. So please let me know if there's something I can do. And people, they take you up on it.
And then it feels super, that way it feels mutual. And even just like, I think sometimes people just like to teach too. Like some people are just really generous and like to share information. I feel like going to college, we've met so many more people that are just open to sharing what they know than not. So that kind of makes it easier, I guess. You talked a little bit about confidence and just kind of like going in there, believing in yourself. What do you do, or what do you tell yourself when you're maybe not feeling as confident as you like to be? How do you like hype yourself up to get ready to go into that room and be as confident as you can?
That's such a good question. And I have to be transparent and say I don't suffer from that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I've been working on it since I was like 12.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. But I will say, funny that you asked that, because I was actually having one of those days today, which is really weird for me. I'm going to a networking event later, and I've just been feeling like not great, like physically about myself, which is really weird for me. I'm normally like, oh, yep, like you look good, go out there, kill the day, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I have just been like practicing affirmations in my mind before I attend an event, because it's like I can put on a confidence in an event, but I also have to take care of myself before the event, right? Like if you don't lay out your clothes, you get dressed. If you don't wash your face and then put your makeup on, then you're not going to have it on, right? So you have to do things to prepare for what's happening. And so, like, as cheesy as it is, like, I'll literally say to myself, I'm like, you know, if I'm fixated, let's say on my weight, for example, I'll try to change the thought and be like, my body takes good care of me. I'm in great health today. Like, I'm able to get out of bed. I appreciate my body for fueling me. Like, this food fuels my body. This food gives me energy. And I just talk to myself about facts.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is, right, like, whether I'm the most beautiful person in the world or not, I have no idea, and I will never know because beauty is subjective. But if I
Good one.
treat myself right, like I'm the most beautiful person in the world, and like I am worth everything in the world, who does that hurt? No one. Even if it's not true. Like, I could be like super unattractive and I don't even know it at this point in my life, because I've just accepted, like, this is who I am. This is what I look like. I can either love the crap out of it or my life is going to suck.
I love that. I
love
love
that.
that. I love that.
And I think that attitude like radiates and it spreads.
It's contagious.
It's contagious. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's great, right? It's like you can show up to an event, and again, even if you're not feeling your best, like at the very least, check in with yourself and be like, well, you know what? This is who I am. So I can accept it in this moment and crush this event, or I can wallow in it and ruin what could be a really great opportunity.
Something I do too is I tend to always imagine like the worst case scenario. So a little while ago, I started like, imagine the best case scenario. Like, imagine yourself walking into that room, you're feeling good, you like your outfit, you have your facts ready, and just like kind of mentally preparing that, kind of like an affirmation, you know, telling yourself that like, no, what if the best happens? Like, I love what you said too about like, you have to lay out your clothes before you get dressed. Like, you kind of have to do that inner work. I think that applies to kindness too. Like, we have to first fill our cups and be kind to ourselves before we can go out and do everything else. And I don't feel like we talk about that enough, like in terms of confidence, like doing that inner work. And everybody's like, fake it till you make it. But like, sometimes we have to, you know, do that work.
And if you like, you really want to get like granular with this, like something I've been doing that's like new for me is, so I realized like I have a lot of like outer body confidence. Like I have a lot of academic confidence, but then I was like, okay, so outside of all that, like, what am I? Who am I? Like, what are the things that really make me special that are just like, you know, intrinsic to who we are? And so I've started just writing a list. Like when something comes to my mind where I'm like, okay, for example, like, me trying to think of a good one. I should have just brought my list, but like, okay, so it's well, honestly, I'm confident. Like that is a characteristic of who I am. And I like wrote that down, and I was like, I will never let anybody in any situation allow me to deny that fact about myself. And so I create these lists, because then even if you do have an experience where maybe you don't feel so great about yourself at an event or a date or a class or whatever, you go home and you look at this list and you're like, no, like I am confident. I am important. I am super detail oriented, not me, other people. You know, what have you. I'm thoughtful. I'm mindful. I'm hilarious. And you can go home and like check these and be like, no. I promised myself I'm these things, and I'm not going to let any situation or person define me otherwise.
I love that. Like, these are my truths, and nobody can, this is set in stone. Nobody can shake this. I love that.
Yeah, my therapist like was like asking me like, who are you? And I was like, don't do this to me.
Right? Like,
I was like, what does that even mean? So then I started making this list, and I was like, okay, I'm back, and I can tell you exactly who I am now.
Here it is.
Until I change my mind, but for now, I have a list.
I love it. I love that. All of these things, you hear about them and you're like, oh, that's great. Like journaling or affirmations or writing things down. You're like, oh, that's great. But then when you actually do them, you're like, oh, wait, they were being serious. Right. Like, this actually works.
Yeah. No, and I think the problem with so much of the stuff on the internet is that there isn't steps. So I like to be super transparent about what it is I'm doing. So like I said, for example, the specific things I say to myself aloud when I'm feeling extra brave, or in my head when I'm a little more like, ew, this is cringy. like I give people examples of what I do so that you can just try them. And then, you know, you kind of see what works and resonates for you. Some stuff's not going to feel right for you. Like maybe you're not funny. Maybe you're not detail oriented. I am not. Okay. Like that is, I am really good at cleaning up my own messes.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I noticed that about your Instagram too. It seems like very like actionable. Like it seems like I can read one of your posts and know exactly what you're talking about and here are the steps to do what you do. And I love that because sometimes like I follow this Instagram account, I notice this. I should unfollow them. They just post stuff like about anxiety, like this is anxiety. I'm like, yeah, okay, I know that is anxiety. What do I do about it? You know what I mean? Like they don't seem to offer
Right.
solutions. So I absolutely love that about your Instagram.
Thank you. That's like the biggest compliment ever. And I think honestly, where it comes from is I was like, I've been in, you know, in like therapy because I've always just been super like I've always been the kind of person who really wants to like work on themselves and learn more and get to know themselves more. And my least favorite kind of therapy was when I would leave without an action step. It would drive me nuts. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's great. So I figured out that my anxiety comes from this place. What the hell do you want me to do about it?
Right.
I cannot just, and I hate Instagram accounts where it's like, do you want to be an influencer? You need to post. Post what, when, how, where, why?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I need some more.
Yeah, I can't stand it. And it's like you can't be like the thing that makes you angry, you can't project that thing. That's not fair.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I love that. Along the lines of like social media, something I think a lot of people really struggle with, especially when they're trying to start creating content or maybe start to be an influencer, is comparison. Comparing yourself to other people and that sort of thing. Have you ever experienced that? And if so, how did you deal with it? Or what would your advice as, you know, a social media coach be for someone who maybe wants to build an online platform but is feeling maybe just like down about themselves or comparing themselves and their growth to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely something I've experienced. I think so. When I first started, my mechanism was I practiced a little bit like dabbling in just like videos because ultimately you kind of have to figure out like, oh, I like this angle. And then once I was like kind of semi comfortable, I just started posting and I was like, you cannot, and you should not wait until you are totally 100% comfortable with how you look in front of the camera because ultimately, yeah, it's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
We have days where we're like, you know, I have days where I post videos and I'm like, oh, I love the way I look here. And then I have days where I'm like, today's a batch creation day. I have to make videos. I don't love the way I look. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just do it and then you don't have to watch it again. Let it go into the world. Yeah. So I think
that.
Thank you. And I think that that's huge. Two, I don't follow anything that has to do with diet culture. If it is like I follow anti-diet culture nutritionists and people who like are into fitness. If it's super fixated on bodies, I don't follow it. If I don't even really follow Instagram models or anything like that because it always crap about myself. And I had this mindset for so long that was like, you're 22 years old and you don't look like that yet. This was like, well, maybe this was a couple years ago. So like I'm 19. I don't look like that yet. You're wasting your 20s. You're supposed to be super hot for your 20s. Why don't you? And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then I got some apps and I started editing myself and I was like, I guess I could look like that too. And it doesn't mean that those people don't look like that, but you don't know. And when I realized what I could make myself look like, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess that would have been like phase 1 was just posting. Phase 2 was unfollowing all the toxic. And then phase 3 was I started posting mirror pictures, which I am curvy. Like I am not the internet prime of body types. Like I have nothing to complain about, but like I am not the size 0 that everybody advertises. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like if I'm going to be real and I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship, then I'm going to also embrace the fact that like I am a size 8, like regular, ordinary looking person who also does this stuff and you can too, right? Like you don't have to be this. And you also, but like, and size 0 is beautiful too, but you don't have to be that.
Yes.
Do this, right? It's not that one is better than the other. So I started posting their pictures of my outfits to be like, this is what I wear to this kind of event on my stories.
Yeah.
And that was so hard.
Yeah.
That was so hard. And people were like, are you like doing it for attention? And I was like, okay, one, everybody loves a compliment. But
Of
two,
course.
actually, it's a practice of self-love because it's like I'm telling my clients to do this crap and I'm not even doing it. Um, and I will be very transparent with you and say that when I started, I was editing them.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like who are you? What are you doing? And I don't necessarily think that like editing out a blemish is a bad thing, but I'm talking like I would sit there and like edit, like if like I felt like my like side like was like bulging a little bit, I'd like pull it in and then I was like, no, no, you're not
Yeah.
doing this game. So now
Yeah.
anything you see is not edited, but maybe 3 months ago. And I was like, you cannot talk this game of confidence and post this crap.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was short-lived, but I did it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And I think we need to be honest and transparent about that too. Like, I feel like so many times you look at a photo, like you said, and you're like, oh my God, why don't I look like that? And then you realize that person has probably edited that. Like, spent an hour editing that. Like, and I feel like sometimes I love what you said about like not following accounts that post icky stuff about diet culture and how we have the power to like say, this is what I want to see, this is what I don't want to see. And, you know, our Instagram, like, that is our feed and we have control over, you know, this type of content is healthy for me, this type of content is not. Like, that separation, I love that.
You're so right. And it's like we can't keep blaming everybody for posting this stuff. I mean, that's part of it, but it's our responsibility what we're consuming. And if it's somebody like, let's say it's a friend of yours, right? And you know they do it and you know it messes with your head, just mute them. You don't have to cause drama. You don't have to tell them, but you don't have to look at it. And if they're the person that's going to get annoyed that you're not liking their stuff, one, I think that's, well, I shouldn't say that's stupid because I like when my friends like my stuff. Just close your eyes, scroll through and like things like once a month. That's lame.
I love that. Yeah. And I love what you said too about like kind of like you're telling your clients to do this and so you're doing it. You know what I mean? I feel like Liz and I feel that all the time of like we are telling people to be kind to themselves and then when we aren't kind to ourselves it's like, oh, kind of like a kind of holds you accountable a little bit of like, oh well, yeah, I gotta. And then like someone could be scrolling through their feed and see your content and think, oh, she's doing it, I can do it too. You know what I mean? And it's just like when we empower ourselves and kind of take that first step and have the courage to do that ourselves, we can empower the people around us too. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's scary to be like, knowing this is going to get posted and be like, oh, like I used to edit my stuff, but it's true. And like, if you're doing it, you're not a bad person. You're not a crazy person. You're not even an insecure person. Like, I'm very confident, but it's totally different when you're putting it out on the internet and you feel like there's a standard. So it's not like I'm not okay with my body, but it felt like, well, it doesn't fit what they're looking for online. And it's very interesting toxic dichotomy.
Do you think that we can get to a point where we can like kind of like, I don't want to say like abolish the standard sort of like we can like kind of get rid of that icky, like you have to look like this or be like this in order to be successful on these platforms?
I think we're working on it. And I think that it's unrealistic to like, not unrealistic, but it's unfair to say if you match beauty standards, you don't have an advantage because you do, right? We've seen 1,000,001 times, but it's also foolish to say that because you don't fit those beauty standards, you can't achieve it as well. Because once we set those limits on ourselves, then you're giving up and giving in. You haven't even tried. And will they ever go away? I don't know. I mean, I'd love to think they would, but I just think that the fitness, like toxic fitness industry, like toxic beauty industry has such a huge, huge cash pool. I'm not sure. I mean, Victoria's Secret has like plus size. I'm doing air quotes. Nobody on the can see me doing that. Like, but I also think they're doing it because it's trendy.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like
not
this like catch-22. Yeah.
Right. Like I don't necessarily think they're like, oh, we want everybody to feel included. I think it's more like Actually, we this is trendy now to like have multiple sizes, so like let's hop on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Mhm.
that worries me because like what happens when it's not trendy anymore? You know what I mean? What
Mhm.
happens if it doesn't? I
Yeah.
hate this like inclusivity is trendy, so we're hopping on the trend. It's like, no, that's not the point.
Well, it's like there are a million different body types, and so even though you have like this like two curvy women now in your catalog, doesn't mean that you're even representing half the body types out there because
Mhm.
you're still going with the beauty standard curvy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's still that for different whatever. We could go on for hours.
For sure. Take a deep breath.
Yeah, reset.
Right. I think it's good that we're having these conversations, though. I
Mhm.
feel like maybe a couple decades ago, maybe these conversations weren't being had as often as they are. So,
and
I
not
think
as
that's
public.
progress. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think that, maybe even if it doesn't totally go away, you can definitely find a niche in a community online that is on that trend and not in a toxic way or not in an exploitative way, but in like a real way. So
Yeah. I love that. That's a settling thing to know
Mhm.
that there are communities out
Mhm.
there. And I think you would agree that we're all trying to, build healthy communities.
Oh, totally.
Online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I want to like do this with you guys is because we're talking about different things on our platforms, but we're ultimately doing the same thing. And that's just
Yeah.
creating awareness that, at least the way I see it, like
Mhm.
people who don't fit one exact standard can do the thing. And that thing doesn't even have to be that 9 to 5 that you're told your whole life. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. It feels very like empowering and liberating. We've said that like that feels like a buzzword today. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're doing. To empower
Yeah.
your followers and your clients is awesome. And we love it.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Isabella. So if people want to book a session with you, if they want to work with you, if they want to collab with you, if they just want to support you, how can they do so?
Oh, I love this question. So you can find me on Instagram. My last name's a mouthful, so we're just gonna, stick with me. So it's at marchese.isabella, marchese.isabella. That's probably the best place. I'm a little like up and coming on LinkedIn. I'm not gonna lie. So you can find me as Marchese on LinkedIn too. Cue this. There's a huge space right now for influencers on LinkedIn, and they're investing money in people who want to start influencing on LinkedIn. So
wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can DM or you can email me at hello@isabellamarquez.com. But like send me a message if you want to connect. I'm always happy to like just have a conversation. There's a link in my bio if you want to book a session with me. I also do free coffee chats so we can see if it's a good everybody I work with, I want it to be a mutual fit. Like I want it to feel great for you and me. So we can do that too.
Awesomeness. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know? Anything else that you want to share? We had a lot of great little nuggets of wisdom today. I love it so much.
I know. I think it was fun too. I would say the biggest thing is like for me, like you said, going to Hobie has given me that expansion of thought and continuing to listen to podcasts like yours, read books. I'm not a big reader. I'm more like an audible kind of person. Follow positive thinkers and actionable people on social media. That also helps me expand my thought process every single day. And I think it's not even necessarily that you remember everything you read and that you remember everything you listen to, but it's that it sparks that power in you and that drive to go do more and learn more. And so I just think like keep learning, keep updating yourself, stay current. And you'll be able to forge your own path. You just need the knowledge to do so.
I love it. And I love that the knowledge is out there too. Like it feels more accessible than ever.
Free.
Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was so much fun.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm like sad that we're departing. This was so much fun.
I know. Well, you can totally come back on again if you ever have anything that you wanna chat about. If you want to plug anything, we would be more than happy.
Topic you want to discuss again too? Let me know. Like if you want to go deeper into something, or
who
knows where like I'll my business will go. So we can always chit chat more. But
would absolutely love that. We really just wanted to say a huge thank you to Isabella for her honesty, her vulnerability, and her authenticity that she brought to this interview. She truly is a person who it just seems like she really is so authentic and so genuine, and that's so refreshing. We had a wonderful time chatting with her about what she does and her advice for other people who maybe want to grow in confidence or maybe want to grow on social media, that sort of thing, and how to do that in a way that is still kind to ourselves and kind to others around us. So huge thank you to Isabella. If you want to go check out her socials, we will link them in the description, and check out her website if you want to book a session with her or just have a consultation with her. She really is such an amazing person and someone that, you know, we would totally love to work with, and we would totally love if you worked with her too. So go check her out. We'll see you back here real soon. Have a great week and take care, everybody. Love ya.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Anna Waltz is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltzlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.